Hello, welcome internet. I'm Ink Knight, and today we are drawing Raiden Shogun from Genshin Impact. Not her base form, but her boss form. Regardless to how this design might look, it is not beginner friendly. You need to know your anatomy, you need to know how to draw hands, because there is 7 of them that I drew, but there's actually a full 8 if you do all of them. It's just one of the hands is concealed behind her pose. Another thing to keep in mind is the understanding of foreshortening and perspective. Additional forms involving the lightning is also another attention to detail that might be required. And for this endeavor, I'm using Clipsio Paint along with a drawing tablet Huion GT220V2. My drawing process involves multiple layers and vector lines, though you can skip the vector lines if you prefer. I mainly just use them for scalable images without losing any line quality, you know? And as for my approach, I usually break down the drawing into 4 to 5 stages. Construction, drafting, line, art, flats, shading, finally then highlights and effects. And with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and begin with the construction. Raiden's boss form features 1 arm, 2 regular hands, and then 3 arms. One holding an object, although I'm unaware if it's a weapon or not. Of course, the most important thing involved in the drawing is Raiden herself takes center stage. With many elements to consider, it is essential to position everything logically on the canvas. Personally, I aim for a more dynamic effect. I place the sword mid-swing in front of Raiden, while the other hands and arms kind of create a circle around her. I mainly do that for framing and whatnot. I really wanted to convey Raiden's command over the sword, so I posed her to emphasize her hand being extended forward. The pose that I did definitely requires an understanding of foreshortening, so references can be quite helpful in this situation. Though I really didn't use any references for the extra hands and arms that is around her, so I really recommend that any newer artists that are not really efficient in drawing these things, get some more references. Trust me, you'll need them. Considering how swiftly I handled the construction phase, you might assume that the drafting is equally simple, but that's far from the truth. Drafting involves refining the drawing flaws, incorporating Raiden's overall appearance and design aspects. One pretty good thing though is that perfection isn't necessarily required at this stage. It's mainly reserved for the line art. Again, I'm going to say this probably a million times, but Raiden's boss form is very intricate, so make sure you have many different references. For this recording, I only displayed around maybe 6 or 7 references, but there is at least 10 to 15 that is off screen. Her design has way too many details. Trust me, I know, because when I was drawing her, I even found more things I didn't realize was even part of the design. It's like, wait, that's one angle, turn around. Oh, that is something. But yeah, mainly focus on these 3 aspects. Number 1, her arms and legs don't have conventional joints, so that might make it a little bit easier. Number 2, Raiden's armor, her shoulder and thigh pieces of armor, they don't seem to be connected to her body. And number 3, with how long the hair ribbons are, you can definitely use that to help enhance the flow and framing of how the character actually fits inside the canvas. Now on to step number 3, line art. Line art is arguably the most critical phase. Mainly, it adds clarity to what the draft lacks. Personally, I prioritize precision and accuracy of my line art. Also, periodically zoom out to ensure that what you're drawing actually people can see. Because when you're zoomed in very, very small, it's going to be very small details that no one's not going to ever notice. With that in mind, Raiden's design demands patience, so employ all the available tools to maintain confident lines unless your art style dictates otherwise. Again, this is just a creative process, it's not a race, so take your time and enjoy it. Oh yeah, hey look, step number 4, it's the flat colors. Many people, including myself, would usually consider this step a breeze, very easy, not a process. However, Raiden's complexity and how she is in the game, you would usually think like there's only 15, 5 colors, whatever. No, she has way more than that, around 40 to 50 maybe. I'm just guesstimating at this point. While you can consolidate some of the purples, the workload will still remain substantial. So my top advice is to either organize the colors into one layer or separate layers. But be cautious with the single layer approach. While convenient, it might complicate distinguishing the foreground, midground, and background. Personally, for my drawing, I use multiple layers, but you can go with a structured layer setup if you want. But beyond these pointers, meticulous attention to detail when filling the colors is paramount. Next up is shading. This step's ease varies, but it depends on what kind of shading style you're going for. You will have to decide between cell shading or realistic/rendering style shading, as well as using colors or a multiply layer. At this point, I was likely around 14 to 16 hours into the process. Initially, I opted for the multiply and cell shading approach when drawing Raiden. However, I will eventually transition to the more realistic style, about around halfway or so. I started to soften some of the shadows, usually where it's being rounded or it's fading off. When you do that, you kind of start losing that cell shading look. And of course, I could have stuck with the cell shading and I could have saved myself a few hours. But regardless, identify your light source, replicate the shadow placement accordingly, and remember that the lighting and glow effects can influence on how the shadows are affected. Moving on to highlights and effects, the final stretch for the most part. I say mostly because I incorporate some lightning before I fully dive into the step. And since Raiden wields the electro powers, not only is that symbol everywhere, but so is the lightning, and that lightning will affect the highlights on how the character looks. Infuse illustration with these elements and ensure a captivating glow effect. I did notice some references portraying the glowing arms while others did not, but it's mainly up to you whether you want to implement that effect. I made her eyes and that electro sign behind her glow. Speaking of the eyes, I added more detail when I was drawing Raiden. I made it glow obviously, but it still has the anime-ish feel. Raiden in the game will have her eyes glow when she's using her powers, so I wanted to incorporate that with my design. It's up to you on what you want for your design. Moreover, I gave the luminous touch to the eyes on the two lower hands. Regarding some of the highlights, I employ a light blue and a light pink to span from the canvas from left to right. The blue serves as the primary highlight while the pink complements the areas where the pink glow from the lightning is. And just like that, we're finished. I hope this guide assists you with drawing Raiden, or offers some insights to how my artistic process is. By the way, this piece took me around 24 hours to create, which explains my temporary absence from the YouTube channel. I'm also concurrently working on a webcomic called Phantom's Abyss. Don't worry, I'll provide more details about that project in a future time. Consequently, I might reduce my video content to about maybe 1 or 2 videos a week. It just really depends on what kind of character I'm drawing. As you see with this Raiden drawing, it took me forever. 24 hours is a long period of time. It's multiple work days. Not only that, it takes a lot of time to kind of set up the entire process of making the video. Rest assured, I will guarantee at least 1 video a week though. I might do more. Like I said, it just depends on what kind of character I'm drawing or what kind of workload I'm working on. Regardless, if you enjoy this video content, please consider liking and subscribing. If you think a friend would appreciate it, then feel free to share it. Your support is highly valued and appreciated. Additionally, if there's any character that you would like me to draw that I haven't already covered, please let me know in the comments. So with that in mind, thank you all for watching yet again, and I'll see all of you in the next drawing video. Later.